Well, thanks for joining us once again. And government has indicated measures being implemented to check the rising debt will soon yield expected results. The response follows warnings by ratings agency Fitch that Ghana's rising public debt remains the biggest threat to stabilizing the economy. The agency had also indicated if this development was not checked, it could negatively impact on the country's credit ratings, which is currently at B with a stable outlook. But Deputy Finance Minister Kweku Kwarteng tells Joy Business government is committed to controlling its rising debt stock because of its impact on the economy.
We are naturally concerned about the increasing debt, but we should remember that as a percentage of GDP, the debt situation is not deteriorating. Now, we encountered liabilities. We even encountered people who had bought government bonds, or in simple language, who had given government money with the understanding that after 3 months, 6 months, they will be giving back the money with interest, the short-term bonds. And there have been people whose bonds have matured, and they say, we want our money. Of course, we inherited it from the previous administration, but continuity of government, and so we have been under responsibility to pay, which is why we have had to borrow in order to deal with the immediate issues. But you would also note that we are borrowing in the longer term. The 5-year bonds, the 7-year, the 10-year, and the 15-year bonds are designed to free up some fiscal space, to reduce our own edge, to go on the domestic capital market and to borrow so that you crowd the private sector out of the domestic money market. That has been our strategy. Plus, of course, as a result partly of our own commitments, but also liabilities we inherited, there has been a gap between our expenditures and the resources we were able to mobilize. So in the 2017 budget, we did put in a deficit. Now, that required that we borrowed money to finance that gap. All that is contributing to the slow rate at which we are addressing our debt situation. But I am confident in my mind that if you look at our strategies on reining in expenditure, the capping policy, and the other things we're doing to reduce government expenditure, plus the debt reprofiling, I'm confident that the rate at which these debts are accumulating will reduce, and that going forward, we will bring back our debt to GDP to sustainable levels.
Quick update now on some other story we've been following for you today. Members of the Senior Staff Association of the Volta River Authority are kicking against government's decision to sell the company's thermal and non-power generating assets. The workers say the sale of the assets will result in astronomical electricity bills, power disconnection of key state institutions, and staff layoffs. Members of the association are demanding government ensures that VRA's thermal and non-power generating plants are not sold out, while demanding a governing board immediately inaugurated. Here's a bit of a press conference that was held today.
The government, through some of its functionaries, particularly Honorable Kweku Kwarteng, has so far advanced various reasons for the planned sale of the thermal assets. These include VRA is good at operating only hydro plants, and that is attested by the name Volta River Authority. And as such, the authority should focus on generating power by means of the river. VRA's mandate is to generate power from water resources, but was allowed to stray into thermal power generation. Government new policy is to separate thermal from hydro power generation. Government intends to solve the power sector challenges by allowing private sector take charge of the thermal generation subsector in the country. VRA is not efficient in managing thermal business. VRA is indebted and depends on government support. Ladies and gentlemen, we've examined the above reasons and wish to respond as follows. Number one, VRA is good at running and managing hydro plant. The Volta River Authority has successfully run, maintained, and managed the country's hydro power generation plant at Akosovo and Pong for over 50 years, as well as other forms of power generation without any major problem. There is therefore no doubt about VRA's ability to continue to run, maintain, manage both the hydro and thermal assets under its operation. We state unequivocally that VRA is efficient, it has a mandate to diversify its power generation portfolio, and must be allowed to operate in line with the VRA Act. We, the staff groups of VRA, are therefore opposed to the government position as advertised on 23rd August 2017 edition of the Daily Graphic. VRA's thermal and non-power generation assets are not for sale.
Meanwhile, the Institute of Energy Securities has also criticized successive governments for playing a crucial role in the current state of the VRA. Speaking earlier on the marketplace, the principal researcher at the IES, Richmond Roxton, said governments over the years have allowed the VRA to strain into areas the authority was not supposed to venture into.
This afternoon, I've been monitoring the media airspace, and I know the Senior Staff Association of the Volta River Authority have had a presser indicating to government that their assets is not for sale. We agree with them. Initially, we put this out on 30th of August because we think that it is government's own actions and inactions that has brought VRA where it is today. So you can't turn around, just like Mr. Kwekwatin said, that they've been inefficient, and over the years, they've allowed them to stray into areas where they're not supposed to be. When you look at the VRA Act, it's clear that apart from the hydro resources, any other resource that they think they can use to be able to generate. So it's not a matter of they straying away from it. In any case, when you do a critical analysis, you realize that the problems are not from VRA. The problems are because over the period, successive governments have micromanaged VRA, and that has been the problem. You go and sign an expensive deal like a Mary. You sign the deal, you impose it on VRA. At the end of the day, they're supposed to provide fuel for VRA. The last time when we checked, from January to July, they had supplied over $150 million worth of natural gas to Ameri, and this sits on the books of VRA. So if you are making these decisions, how do you come back to blame them? What KPIs have you given them to be able to measure them to say, okay, this is what we expect you to do?
Well, in another development, and if you have been doing some monitoring yourself, you realize that some oil marketing companies have started adjusting their prices to reflect current developments. The Institute of Energy Security had earlier predicted prices to go up by at least 7% for the second pricing window in September. Principal Research Officer of IES, Richmond Roxton, who has been monitoring himself at some pumps, said the situation demands urgent government action to avoid extra burden on consumers.
Yeah, we're expecting prices to rise by about 7%, between 7 to 10%. This is because the CD continuously is depreciating. This is something we've spoken about for 10 consecutive windows. That will be 5 months. But nothing absolutely has been done because the trend continues to go down. As we speak, it's 4 cedis, 48 pesos to $1 from a previous average of 4 cedis, $44 cedis per dollar. And when you check the Platts benchmark of finished products as well, we know that gasoline went up by 14%. Gas oil also went up by 8%. Okay. You look at crude oil prices on the international market. Crude oil prices currently are trading around $55 per barrel from a previous average of about $52 per barrel. This is what we've put together, and we've projected that prices are supposed to go up by 7%. So far, Vivo Energy, that's Shell Ghana, and Total Petroleum, they've increased their prices to reflect exactly what we put out. Both companies have increased the price by 7.99%. That's almost 8%.
For petrol?
Yes, for petrol. And for diesel, they've done about 5%. Previously, we were selling both products at 4 cedis, 13 pesos. As we speak, petrol or gasoline is 4 cedis, 46 pesos.
Per liter?
Per liter, okay. Yes. And diesel is 4 cedis, 33 pesos per liter. So what it means is that per gallon, we are looking at over 20 cedis per gallon.
20 cedis per gallon.
Over 20 cedis per gallon.
You're watching Business Live. Now, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, says government's budget and economic policy for 2018 is likely to have a major focus on the agricultural sector. This is part of initiatives by President Akufo-Addo's administration to use agriculture as a bedrock for economic growth. Dr. Bawumia said government will introduce another program next year to complement the contribution of the Planting for Food and Jobs initiative.
Our next budget, which is going to be read in November, because we came in just at the beginning of the planting season, we're not really able to roll out our full agricultural plan. We are now preparing to outdoor what we call a Marshall Plan in agriculture. And that is going to be the subject, the main focus of Ghana's next budget, the Marshall Plan for agriculture. And I think that from our point of view, the political economy of this is very, very, very clear, and it's very, very important. The economics of it makes sense, and it will complement our program of Planting for Food and Jobs. It's just going to enhance it. Broadly speaking, the Marshall Plan for agriculture will ramp up the investments under the Planting for Food and Jobs program, abolish duties on agricultural produce, processing equipment and machinery, support the development of agribusiness startups, de-risk and finance farming and agribusiness, open up food baskets in areas such as the northern part of Ghana and the Afram Plains through road construction and irrigation projects, and give specific technical assistance and tax incentives to support agro-processing, packaging, market access, increase in the pace of mechanization, as well as the launch of a major pension scheme for cocoa farmers.
Minister of Finance Ken Ofori-Atta has hinted of plans to implement a new ownership structure for all state-owned enterprises. The finance minister noted this has become critical due to the role such state enterprises are playing in the socio-economic development of the country. He made the remarks in an address to open the first 2017 State-Owned Enterprises Policy and Governance Forum in Accra. Ebenezer Sabute has more in the following report.
The two-day event, designed to bring all directors of state enterprises and some governance experts under a common platform to discuss the effects of state enterprises on the economy. According to the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, the move by government to implement this new ownership strategy will take effect from 2018 as part of measures to attract investors to own part of such entities.
Government is committed to exercising its ownership rights diligently and responsibly in order to enhance the governance and performance of SOAs. Government in 2018 will codify the strategic direction and the underlying principles for how it intends to manage its ownership rights in the SOA sector through the development and implementation of an ownership policy manual. This ownership policy will streamline the governance of the sector and serve as the bedrock of government's corporate governance reforms in SOAs. The ownership policy for SOEs will detail the objectives of state ownership, the roles and responsibilities of the shareholder, board, and management, and how government will exercise its role as a shareholder. It will also provide for how any non-commercial objective, programs, projects, or transactions required by government of SOEs will be financed.
He highlighted some of the monitoring programs government will embark on to ensure state enterprises become profitable to the state.
We intend to take this function and responsibility seriously. Hence, in accordance with best practices, the PFM Act and relevant legislative and regulatory provisions, we have initiated efforts to establish a comprehensive performance monitoring regime for the SOE sector. These efforts will culminate in the development of a performance monitoring manual for the SOE sector. The manual will bring together the principles, requirements, provisions, information, and systems captured in the various acts, policies, and guidelines governing the performance monitoring of SOEs in a structured and systematic way to ensure an unequivocal understanding of the process and compliance among SOEs and other stakeholders.
Financial reports for 2016 indicated that 16.2 billion Ghana cedis was generated as profit for government by some state enterprises.
Now, the Microcredit Association of Ghana is anticipating measures in the industry in the wake of increased minimum capital requirements. The Bank of Ghana has increased the capital requirement over 200% in a bid to strengthen the industry. Commercial banks are now expected to pay 400 million cedis, while Microcredit 200,000 Ghana cedis. Some industry players say the move could cripple many local banks, whilst others say it is critical to protect depositors' money. Prince Apia reports.
The over 600 members of the Microcredit Association of Ghana met in Kumasi at the 8th annual general meeting to discuss a number of issues, including the increased minimum capital requirement in the financial sector. Commercial banks are now expected to pay 400 million Ghana cedis, while the Microcredit is paying 2 million Ghana cedis by end of 2018. Board chairman of the Microcredit Association, Regina Kumi, says the increase will compel members to form mergers in order to stay afloat in business.
Honestly speaking, I know it's a big challenge because now the deadline for people to meet is 2018. But I think within our sectors too, definitely going forward, we'll see people also doing these measures at our sector so that there will be the industry will be sanitized. At this time, the banks that will not be able to achieve it, they are going to look for mergers. And when they do these mergers, I think the number of banks we have in the country will come down and they will be very strong and vibrant. And maybe they will look at the cities and will also focus in the rural areas. So I feel it's not a bad idea. It will let us have very few and minimum banks, but very efficient and effective. So I see it as somehow an advantageous to us because if we work very hard, we can also focus very well on the rural areas and impact very well on the poor.
Leadership of the association also revealed a 5-year strategic plan which included the need to go digital with their operations.
I see us going a lot on electronical ways because that's what we are promoting now, digital financing. Because now we see that the world is moving towards that. And we are really aiming at getting our members on digital so that doing business and transaction loans and other things will be very easy and simple.
Meanwhile, there are concerns that members of the association take deposits, which is contrary to their operational mandate. Officials of Bank of Ghana are therefore admonishing members to stick to the operational mandate. Philip Opoku-Mensah is the Deputy Chief Manager for Other Financial Institutions Supervision at the Bank of Ghana.
Going forward, we urge you to always comply with Bank of Ghana rules and regulations. We urge you to concentrate on your core mission of microcredit extension. Please avoid the temptation of mobilizing deposits from the public, as most of you are doing. We urge you to concentrate on borrowing from high net worth individuals and institutions, but be mindful also of your gearing ratio. Ensure adequate capitalization. As you know, by end year 2018, you are required to have a minimum capital of 2 million Ghana cedis. And always keep your capital adequacy ratio in a very good position of a minimum of 10%.
Prince Apia reporting.
The evolution of network marketing in the country has attracted many people and has become a thriving business over the past few years. Many people have adopted it and are using network marketing to rake in extra monthly income. Well, Joy Business has been finding out what network marketing is and to what extent the venture is impacting the livelihoods of participants. Bismarck Awusa has more in this report.
Network marketing, also known as multi-level marketing, has become popular with many people using it as a part-time business. There are currently about 500 of such networking platforms in Ghana. These include Max International, Herbalife, Longreach International, among others. These companies deal in a wide range of products like cosmetics and pharmaceuticals. Dr. Kweku Ohenasare, a network marketing expert, throws more light on the business.
It's a form of marketing where it goes away from the traditional marketing of buy and sell, and where you do adverts through the means of the media. By this time, you do the adverts through the person who has actually used your product, so that that person will refer other people to you. So that person will more or less advertise the product for you. So instead of the money being paid to an advertising company, you now pay the money through to the person who has actually introduced you to the, linked you up with the company. The traditional marketing going into business requires quite a substantial amount of capital. For example, to start a company in Ghana here today, you will need not less than 5,000 Ghana cedis to set up a very, very simple, company with a container. But then in this network marketing business, the capital is very low.
Dr. Ohene Asare also shares his thoughts on whether or not this kind of business is indeed lucrative and prospective.
It is the fastest way to become an entrepreneur. It's the fastest way for anybody who is a student, who is struggling to be part of the Unemployed Graduate Association, or for anybody who is even a worker but needs another stream of income. Because trust me, you can't depend on a single source of income. Everyone needs multiple streams of income. That is how the world is built. Else you have to work for somebody for the rest of your life and expect to retire at age 60.
Let's now hear from some industry players who've also shared their experience about network marketing.
Financially, it has benefited me a lot, really. I was working in the oil industry. I'm a mechanical engineer, and joining this business has really multiplied my income. And also, when it comes to personal development, that's one big thing for me.
It has been an eye-opener. Of course, the support base, the help, there are a lot of things that have been introduced to. As in a couple of books that kind of about entrepreneurship, kind of personal development. We've been to school to study or learn all the things that we're supposed to, but then all those things does not benefit us. By coming to Marx, I've come to realize that making real money is about the mindset. It's about things you feed your mind with.
Moving on now, and the newly appointed board chairman of the Health Facilities Agency, Nana Otuoye Champong, says the agency will begin the registration of all health facilities across the country. He spoke to Sheila Tamaklo at the inauguration of some governing boards under the Health Ministry today.
So currently at the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, where the Minister for Health just inaugurated 7 boards to steer activities and development projects under the Health Ministry. Now, one key board here is the Ghana Health Facilities and Regulatory Agency, which was established under the Act 829 with the mandate of monitoring and licensing the over 30,000 health facilities in this country. So we'll be speaking to the board chair in the person of Nana Otuoye Champong. What are the latest projects and innovations that you'll be coming up with to streamline activities in the health sector?
Well, it's very enormous because the board regulates almost 30,000 health facilities in the country by issuing their licenses, monitoring that they keep to the standards and so on. So the actual agency was established in 2012. Then partway in 2016, the board was dissolved, and since then it hadn't been working until the new government came in and they resumed work around March. So for the new board, which has been inaugurated today, there's quite a lot of arrears to clear in the sense of licenses to be approved for facilities, monitoring the existing facilities to ensure that they keep according to the dictates of the law. So it's very enormous.
On his part, the Minister of Health cited a number of measures in place to improve health services, including the restructuring of the National Health Insurance Scheme.
We are not forgetting about infrastructure and equipping our hospitals. Sooner or later, we will begin to hear a few more equipments and devices being placed in some of our facilities, right? We're scaling up activities in health insurance. Probably by the end of the month, we may come out with a statement on how far we have carried health insurance and the reforms that we want to make into health insurance. Remember, the board was inaugurated some time past, and we've done a lot of work with the board members about how we want to reform health insurance. As I speak, it looks like health insurance is coming up back gradually. Some part of the areas have been cleared. Like I said, within the next 2 weeks or so, we will come up with a statement that will give indications and figures to tell Ghanaians where health insurance is standing at the moment.
So like we heard from the Honorable Minister Kweku Agyeman-Manu, the ministry is poised to invest into resources and infrastructure in Ghana's health sector. This is to ensure that Ghana's health sector becomes one of international standards. Reporting for Joy Business from the College of Physicians in Accra, my name is Sheila Tamaklo.
We'll take you straight to our interview of the day, and Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry Carlos Ahenko says government will soon be putting up appropriate infrastructure in several locations to serve as model markets. This, he says, will enhance the level of trade in made-in-Ghana products and promote the development of local industries. He was speaking ahead of the Joy Prime Made in Ghana Fair, which comes off this Thursday. The fair seeks to showcase the handiwork and artisanship of many Ghanaians.
Interview of the day.
It is interesting to know that the inter-trade relationship between Ghanaians, or buying and selling within Ghana, does not take the normal format that most developed countries would practice and ensure that monies actually do exchange hands more regularly than you'd have expected. Why do I say this? In Ghana, people trade only for convenience. We don't trade for business. And it is the opinion of this ministry to ensure that people trade amongst themselves much more than they do from now on. Because of this, the first thing that we intend doing is improving the retail infrastructure of this country by putting together nice edifices where people would sell their wares from. For example, we did not know that people would enjoy the sight of malls and so on and so forth. Today, if you see the way people patronize malls, for example, it's quite interesting. People go there and take pictures. People will go there and for sightseeing and so on and so forth. At least they get there, even if they don't buy anything at all, they will buy an ice cream or they will buy something and exchange money there and then. If you go to the Tema station, as I speak to you right now, you will see a pair of shoes on the floor which is being sold for 25 Ghana cedis. Maybe you and I might not buy that shoe because of where they are selling the shoe. But the same or similar shoe will be sold in an air-conditioned shop at Accra Mall for 250 Ghana cedis. And
Interview of the day.
And you don't want to miss out on the Joy Prime Made in Ghana Fair, which kickstarts this Thursday at the Junction Mall. That'll be it for the Joy Business Live on Joy News. My name is Daryl Kwao. We've got plenty more business news on Joy News Prime.